Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for the limited series Your Honor on Showtime. Alright, so this has been quite a ride, right, for Your Honor. So obviously, pretty much like everybody else, really was interested in this one because of Bryan Cranston. And I remember talking about this one back when the news first came out that Bryan Cranston was going to be starring in this, and it's kind of his return to primetime television, since Breaking Bad, of course. And so a lot of that is going into this. And then, of course, at that time, they had kind of a brief synopsis of what the show was going to be, what the story was going to focus on. And so we got that, and that seemed really cool. It seemed like a compelling story, and some people would have known it from the TV series, the Israeli TV series that it's based off of. So yeah, some really good potential here. And then some of the other cast members that were announced, really good. So yeah, I was really looking forward to checking this one out, and to be honest, it's been one of the only ones that I've been checking out in the last month or so, just because there hasn't been a lot of good shows yet in 2021, and even towards the end of 2020. And so yeah, I really was invested in this one. I actually caught up to it, so I think I caught up to part 6, and then watched 7, 8, 9, and 10 live the last few weeks. And then of course we had that 1 week break in there, so I think it amounted to about 5 weeks. So the last 5 weeks I've been watching the show, invested in it every Sunday, and finally the finale aired last night, and so really wanted to get on here, share my thoughts, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this series. What did you think of this one? I've heard a lot of thoughts so far, mostly negative, of course. But yeah, what did you guys think of it? Were there some positives for you out of this one, or did you just kind of completely hate it, or did you actually enjoy this? I've seen some people who actually do enjoy it, and so I don't want to kind of discount that. If you did enjoy it, that is awesome. So please let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to discuss this one with you guys for sure. And if you enjoyed this review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. I would really appreciate that. So anyways, let's get into this one here. So the beginning part is going to be non-spoilers, so if you haven't seen the series or you're a few episodes behind, definitely stick around for this beginning half or beginning kind of section here, and then I'll give a spoiler warning when I get there, and go into the spoiler discussion and kind of touch on some stuff with the finale and some kind of big events in the series. So again, if you aren't caught up or if you haven't seen it yet, maybe kind of skip out on that, maybe come back later if you're still interested, something like that. And then I'll end this one with just kind of my overall thoughts and kind of giving it a recap, I guess, of what my favorite episode was, some of my favorite moments, stuff I didn't like about it, stuff I did like. So anyways, we'll get to all that towards the end of the video. So anyways, let's get into this without any further ado. So, this new Showtime limited series was created by Peter Moffat, who is from The Night Of. He did some writing on that show. He may have been part of the developing of that show. I'm not completely sure. But that's a really interesting one, because I've heard from some people that the first few episodes of that are up there with the best TV of all time, or at least of the last decade. And that's one I really want to watch. That and True Detective Season 1, which I still haven't watched all of it yet. I do want to go back and definitely watch that and this one, The Night Of. Really good things I've heard from that one. But anyway, so he's involved with that, and then he's also involved with the British miniseries Undercover, it was called. So, and that apparently was pretty popular, or pretty prominent over there. I've never heard of it, but definitely an interesting kind of project there, and some good credits here for Peter Moffat. So I think this is the first solely American-based TV series that he's created, but nonetheless, he definitely kind of comes from that British world, and now he's kind of coming over here with this for Showtime, which is really interesting. So this one stars Bryan Cranston, of course, Michael Stuhlbarg, Hunter Doohan, Carmen Eogo, Hope Davis, and Isaiah Whitlock Jr. And of course, there are many other supporting actors here, part of the cast, but those are kind of our main players there. So the story is based on the Israeli TV series Kavodo. And this is really interesting because I'd really like to know how much different this series is than Kavoto. Maybe I should just do some more research, or maybe if you guys have seen the series or you know more than I do, please let me know. Please let me know, how similar this really is to that show, and if they made some like really big changes, especially the ending, because that ending seems like something that'd be hard to just make up, and it seems like it would be adapted. So anyways, love to hear your guys' thoughts if you do know more about that, how loosely based or how really similar this is to the series Kavoto. So anyways, it follows a prominent New Orleans judge, Michael Desiato, and his teenage son Adam as they try to cover up Adam's killing of another teenager in a hit and run. However, things quickly start to spiral out of control when they find out that the victim of the hit and run was the son of the infamous New Orleans mob boss Jimmy Baxter. So throughout the 10-episode run, more and more people become embroiled in their attempts to cover up the crime, including local gangs, organized crime families, of course, detectives, corrupt police officers and departments, and all these kind of inner workings of the system kind of working together and just all becoming involved in varying degrees in this cover up, in this whole situation, where really it's just one moment, one very short moment. It's the perfect storm of all these things kind of colliding, and the aftermath and the blowback of it is just so huge, and you really see that play out here. And so, of course, this ultimately results in a lot of irreparable conflict and destruction that really engulfs the entire city. Like I said, it involves so many aspects of kind of the atmosphere, or I guess the community. I forgot to say a mayor even in there, an election, of course the judge, right, Michael. So it really is just encompassing like everything a part of this city, and again, just over this one event. So it is really interesting just to see how that all plays out in this series. So now my kind of overall thoughts of this one. Overall, this series began as a promising one with an intriguing story, some great cast members, as I mentioned before, even some strong first couple episodes. Really getting invested in this one, especially after the first episode. It's not, perfect, but it is really intriguing still, and really kind of got my attention, really got me hooked on this, and really wanting to see that next episode. Now, the second episode, I'll talk about more of this in my spoilers, of course. The second episode was really, really great, I thought. And it, again, really hooked me in. And those really strong first couple episodes there to start off the miniseries. However, it quickly goes downhill when the writing becomes melodramatic, cliche, and even at times nonsensical, as this story is dragged out and inflated with so many uninteresting subplots that it completely loses its focus, along with any momentum that it built in those first couple episodes. Though, with the help from some great performances, Cranston, Stolberg, Whitlock, and a couple others there, and remarkable cinematography, which I'll talk more about in my spoilers. Once you acknowledge this lackluster writing, this at times really embarrassing writing, sometimes, this series can still be enjoyable, if not only just to be tuning in to see what these writers can possibly come up with next for these characters and this story, and where they're gonna take it, how do they get themselves out of this corner. And I did find myself, even though I'm like, all right, at a certain point in the series, I'm like, okay, this is what it's gonna be, I've accepted it, but I still kind of want to watch each week, right? It's almost like a seeing something go up in flames, right? And you just want to watch it because this got worse and worse and worse, but I was still really intrigued, and every Sunday I came back to watch. So there is something to be said about that, and I think that kind of makes this series worth watching, even though, yes, of course, it's really not great, especially towards the end of the series. I think, yes, the first two episodes are definitely worth watching, and you may as well just finish it at that point. And if you get some laughs out of it, that's good too. So anyways, those are kind of my thoughts on that one in terms of non-spoilers. So now I'll give my warning for spoilers. I'll be going into that now. So if you haven't seen the show yet, or if you're not up to date, maybe skip out on this one now. All right, so now let's get into some discussion with some spoilers here. So, I just want to start off by saying some great performances in this one. This is kind of just an overall discussion about the acting. So Cranston is on a whole nother level. There's really no one who compares to him in this cast. Maybe Stolberg, but even then, I think obviously Bryan Cranston's on another level, and I think he definitely will contend for the Emmy this year. It's going to be a very, very weak year for the Emmys. Especially probably in limited series, so I kind of have a feeling that he has this one in the bag for outstanding actor in a limited series. He's just really great in this. He just is, and he's pretty much exactly what you expect. I think he actually exceeded my expectations in some moments throughout the series, because he really is on a whole nother level for this cast. And you really do feel bad for him, though, because this writing is so bad at times, especially for his character. Some of the dialogue is some of the worst dialogue that I've seen definitely come out of Cranston's mouth, right? And so to see him a part of this show and giving it his all, I mean, every episode giving it his all, every scene, and for this, to be the show that he does that in, it's just like, I don't know, you feel kind of disappointed that this couldn't have been in something better, and you feel bad for him that the writing wasn't a better and could have showcased his performance better. But again, I think he still brings so much to this that you almost miss the writing. You almost miss how bad the writing is because he's so good. So definitely, I think this is the best I've seen him, or that we've all seen him since Breaking Bad. He has some, again, really great moments in this one, like some moments that I think would rival some big moments in Breaking Bad. Some of the more emotional scenes he's really, really good at. But I will say, throughout the series here, it really does just seem like he's playing Walter White. And even at times in this series, it seems like the writers wrote some of the dialogue and some of the, wrote this character here to be kind of like a fan fiction of Walter White in Breaking Bad. It seems like this role was specifically written for Cranston. And I think that could be the case, because Cranston was attached to this project very early on and was invested in it right from the beginning. So it does seem at times like it's very similar to Walter White. Even the mannerisms that he does in some of these scenes, very similar. I guess more comparable to Walter White later in Breaking Bad, right? We're talking like season 4 and 5 time. So one line that stuck out to me that I won't forget in this, and I couldn't believe they did this, but the one scene, and fans of Breaking Bad would have definitely picked up on this too, probably, but this one scene, I think it's episode 6 or 7, where they're on the boat after just taking out the guy who was going to blackmail Michael, right? And they're on the boat dumping his body in the water, and I think it's Michael who says, "Oh, I just remembered it's my birthday today," or something like that. And that is literally, I think, word for word, the line in Breaking Bad in episode 15, I believe, of season 5. When he goes to that bar. And he says it in the exact same way as he did in Breaking Bad. And it's like, really? There's no way that the writers, Cranston, the producers, like, no one picked up on this. I feel like it was definitely purposeful. It just kind of slid in there because his character's already so similar to Walter White. But anyways, I just thought I'd have to bring that up. But yeah. It's that line of him saying, it's my birthday today. And it just seems so forced in that scene in this that it just, I really picked up on it. But anyways, maybe that's just me, and maybe I'm looking too far into this. But yeah, Bryan Cranston, absolutely amazing in this. Stolberg is also really great in his character. I've seen him, of course, in Shape of Water. I think that was one of his bigger projects in just recently, and he was fantastic in that film as well. he didn't get any Oscar, buzz, but I think he was definitely on that level in that movie. I think that's fair to say. He was really, really good in that, and he's so good in this. I don't think I'm not sure that he has the most depth, of any actor, but I think in this role, in this kind of specific part that he's playing, I think he does really, really well at it. And playing this character that is it almost is kind of like it's a mob boss, but he also has a lot of sympathy. You see that that kind of side of him as well, and then you obviously see the grief side of him for his son. So there's a lot of depth to this character, and it's not just kind of this stereotypical mob boss, which actually is actually saying something for this show, because a lot of the stuff is stereotypical at times. But yeah, I just thought that he was really great playing this specific character in this specific role, yeah, some really impressive stuff. I think the best scenes for him are scenes where he's actually side by side with Cranston. I think those scenes are some of the best acted in the series for sure, and I think he really rises to like another level because he's kind of able to bounce off Cranston, and maybe Cranston kind of brings that out of him as well. So those were really great. Isaiah Whitlock Jr. is perfect in his role, man. This character also seemed like it was written just for him. Of course, he's from The Wire. A lot of people will know him from there. He's great. He is so great. He's a bit of a comedic relief in this, and kind of he was that in The Wire as well. So yeah, just a beloved actor, and a really beloved character he's playing here again in this role, and he's great. So I thought Hunter Duan was okay for his age, because he is a young actor. We do got to give a little bit of an excuse to him, right, for that one. But yeah, I thought he was okay. I thought episode 1 he was really great in the whole hit and run, the kind of long take there. I thought that was actually some really impressive acting from him. But then as the series went on, I don't know, it could have been the writing too, but I feel like his kind of performance went downhill as well. But, I think, again, he was okay. He was fine for what he needed to be. Carmen Yogo was good in some scenes, and like okay in some others. I had the same experience with her in True Detective Season 3, where at times I thought she was really good. She really kind of captivated the screen, really kind of brought you into that character, and she has this really nice delivery as well, that's kind of calm and kind of inviting you in, again, to what she's saying, and you kind of feel sympathy for her. Anyway, so I think some really good parts, but in some other scenes, I don't know if she was really like on her game. And again, maybe it's the writing. So we got to give some excuses to these actors for sure. And also one other name I want to bring up is Lamar Johnson as Kofi. I thought he was pretty good in this series, especially, in that episode 2, and in episode 3, again, he had a little bit of comedic relief too there at the beginning, especially that one scene I'm thinking of with the baseball when he first went to prison, and he trades it for the sandwich and all that. So I thought he was really great in those comedic roles, in those comedic moments, but then also in the serious moments and even some of the more emotional ones, he was great. And so he's definitely someone I want to watch going forward, and hopefully get some more projects, because it was just a small role in this one, but I thought he was really great. Also, the guy who played Carlo, I really didn't think he was a good actor until about the last couple episodes, where I thought he actually did kind of show some depth, show some emotion there. But I have to say, there were just some bad actors in this show as well, especially the one who plays, the actress who plays Fia. I don't know, at times I really didn't like the way she was playing that character. Who else? I thought the detective, Nancy Costello, was a little bit off in some parts. So yeah, the acting was not the strongest, but again, there's some great performances here that definitely deserve to be highlighted. Remarkable cinematography in this one. This was oddly, incredible. Honestly, this is some of the best cinematography I've seen from a TV series, probably since Chernobyl on HBO, which was about a year and a half ago in 2019. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how the cinematography is this good for a show like this, but it was really impressive. Even just starting episode 1 and that whole hit and run scene, just fantastic the way they filmed that. And throughout this series, just some really great moments, just really visually pleasing, and really builds the tone of this kind of New Orleans gritty kind of grimy city, and all this stuff's kind of going on around it. But yeah, some really, really great cinematography throughout this one. Like I said, on par with some things like Chernobyl. True Detective also has some really great cinematography, but I thought this was maybe even better than the recent True Detective season. It was really great. And so it was done by James Friend. I think, yeah, James Friend. And he did the cinematography for Patrick Melrose, which I think earned him an Emmy nomination. So he's definitely on my radar now, and I look forward to seeing what he does next. Hopefully another TV series, or maybe he gets into film. I think he's done a few films, but pretty small. Again, another British guy, but man, like, this was impressive. So I really want to look out for what he does next, for sure, because this was really impressive. Some of the moments that come to mind just in that finale last night was that one scene in particular that had Adam with his inhaler at the window there in the courtroom. All the courtroom scenes were just really, really well filmed, and again, just visually pleasing. So anyway, some really great cinematography that is, again, so weird to me how that is just so good in this type of show. It just seems like overkill almost, but I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they got this guy, and I'm glad he did a good job for sure. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the first two episodes. I'm here to defend them, because I think the first two episodes are actually pretty good, and I really do think they do a great job at bringing the story full circle. I love the way that the episode 2 ends with Adam standing in Kofi's place in the courtroom. I just love that ending, and I think it really could have ended right there. I think the whole series could have ended right there in that moment, and I think that moment is the last kind of peak of this series, and I think from there it all just goes downhill, because again, you have that whole thing. So you have episode 1, it's the hit and run, not much happens, they realize that it's Baxter at the very end, and they decide, okay, we're not going to the police now, we're going to cover this up. Okay, episode 2, we go into covering it up. We get the alibi, building that, going to the cemetery, all that stuff. And then, of course, Kofi steals the car. So we get that whole thing playing out. And again, by the end of the episode, Kofi then pleads guilty. It seems like they've gotten away with it now. But we also see kind of the big aftermath and this, kind of rippling effects here of their decisions and what that's caused now for this Kofi, and of course Desire, all the stuff that goes with it. And again, I just love the way Adam then stands at the courtroom, and it really is just a visual of, okay, wow, like this should be Adam standing there, and it's not. Now it's Kofi who's going down with this, and you feel so bad for Kofi as well. And I just feel like a really, really good way to wrap up this story. And again, yes, of course, there were a lot of unanswered questions at that point, but I just feel like from a story standpoint, and of course, knowing now how the series goes down from there, really just think this could have been a really good 2 episodes. And of course, there's some, iffy writing here and there in those first 2 episodes, but for the most part, that's better than a lot of other stuff on TV right now. And so I really do like it, and I will defend it for sure. So yeah, the story at that point is not too convoluted. It shows the far-reaching impacts, or at least starts to show those, of Michael and Adam's decisions. And again, some really well-shot and memorable scenes, along with some compelling performances in these first 2 episodes. And like I said, from here on out, it just nosedives pretty much. Episode 3 is decent, but after that, it pretty much all goes downhill. Part 4, I think, is one of the worst episodes of the series for sure. And something I do want to mention here is that these first 2 episodes are actually written by Peter Moffat. All of the other episodes, except for the finale, which I'll get to, are written by other writers, or are written kind of by the writing team. So I do wonder if that plays a part. I wonder if Peter Moffat had this vision and kind of knew exactly what he was going for. And some of these other writers that came on really didn't know how to capture that. And that's why the whole rest of the series kind of fell off. But again, I'll talk about the finale because I think that's a fair point in saying, well, okay, he wrote these two, but he also wrote the finale, which is probably one of the worst episodes. So it's like, how do you reckon with, or, how do you reconcile that? But anyways, we'll get to that. But yeah, first two episodes I thought really memorable, really great, really well filmed, and the story really wraps up. But then after that, man, it's just downhill, of course, as we all know. And that's really rough. So anyways, then we get to this cliche and melodramatic turn. It is, because this is just a great example of a series just getting stretched way too far, and the core story could have been easily resolved here in 4 episodes max. I was happy with 2. I think it's fair to say that you needed a couple more episodes to wrap everything up that they set up here. But easily. I mean, easily, not more than 5, right? I'll maybe give it 5, not more than 5. 10 episodes was way too long for this, and I saw people mentioning this while covering this season and saying, okay, like, we have 5 episodes left. What are they going to do with this time? Like, are we really going to, get into things and really keep this story going that long? And that was definitely a question, and it was a legitimate question, because this story was stretched way too long. Even 8 episodes would have been too much for this, and that's what typically miniseries are. So I just, really disappointing, right? The way that this was overstretched, and just really unfortunate, because it really does go downhill after episode 2 or 3, and if in a 4 or 5 episode run you really could have tied this up really well, and done that. But of course, Showtime probably would not have committed to something like that. Max they would probably do is 6, or 8, but 10 was way too much either way. So of course there's countless examples of this recently. 13 Reasons Why is one of those shows that I kind of despise for going past that first season, because yes, of course the show is not the best, but that first season, say what you will about it, if you don't like it very much, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I really do like the way that story was set up. And again, I think it really came full circle in that last episode. It really wrapped everything up. And then I heard it's getting a season 2, and I'm thinking, like, really? So it's a little bit of a different case. Of course, Your Honor's not getting a season 2, but it's the same thing of, okay, we're stretching this story so far when there's really not much there to be had and to cover, but we're going to kind of force it through anyways. And season 2 of 13 Reasons Why, not very strong, and I couldn't even finish season 3. So that's what I mean, right? It really is this overstretching inflation of these episodes and this story when it's really not there to be had. Big Little Lies, another example. Season 1, a lot of people loved it. Season 2, not so much. Or at least that's not what I heard. So, yeah, some really great examples of this recently, and I think this one is definitely a victim of that for sure. They just simply had to introduce all of these uninteresting and at times just completely nonsensical subplots, right? Like, some of these just made no sense, and they really didn't fit into the story. They're really kind of forced in there, but they had to, because they had 10 episodes here where they just had to fill, right? A lot of these episodes are just completely filler and just all this melodramatic, cliche stuff that no one really wanted to see, right? It's really just this inflating all these episodes, filling them out, and kind of pushing that through and forcing it when it really wasn't there. So, yeah, and of course, just some bad writing. I mean, so, some of these episodes and some of these scenes were just, the dialogue is just not very good. But again, that can be forgiven, right? Like, 13 Reasons Why is not the best writing on TV, but that can be forgiven if it doesn't seem like everything's just stretching out episodes, right? If the story is actually relevant, if it's interesting still, we're invested into it, some of that stuff can be forgiven, right? I mean, a lot of these popular shows, they don't have the best writing ever, but they're captivating, right? They get your attention, they keep you interested. This was the opposite of that. It was just a lot of stuff that not really many people cared about, and by the end of it, of course, they didn't really cover any of it. So it was all pointless. So, yeah, again, just, yes, there's bad writing, but it's mostly because it was so inflated, so stretched out here, and just filled the run times for many, many of these episodes, and it was really an unfortunate part of this series. So something else I wanted to address in this review is the problems with the last 3 episodes. I think we all noticed it, right? I don't think these were entirely their fault, though. I will say that I do want to kind of give, you know, I want to give them a little bit of an excuse here, because I really do think there were some significant problems here, and they did have to do with production delays. So they did have to shut down filming for 7 months between about episode 7 and 8, and then they had to come back and shoot the rest of the show. So that causes a lot of problems, right? Even beyond just being able to kind of come back in those same characters and give those same performances, like, that's hard. Being away for 7 months, of the show after probably filming for, well, probably about 3 months, right? That they probably were filming the other episodes, and then now to take a break of 7 months and then go back there and film the rest of it. Film the next 3 episodes or 2.5 episodes that they had left. So I can excuse some of this stuff. In these episodes, especially episode 8 and 9. Episode 10, I didn't notice it as much, but episode 8 and 9, man, there were just multiple editing errors. And this is Showtime. This is like Showtime primetime TV on a Sunday night slot. And there's editing errors in this, right? Like, that's just not something you expect from this type of show, with this type of quality and this type of money behind it as well. And so, again, it has to be attributed to the delays, and obviously they were quite rushed in getting these episodes out, because they also took a break in between episodes 7 and 8 and releasing them. And I think part of the reason why they had that break was because they didn't even have that episode ready to go yet. And so I think that definitely played a part in the problems of this. And of course it also had that like completely missing scene. I think it had a couple there where we just never saw that scene in any episode, and then all of a sudden it was a key subplot in the last few episodes here, with Adam's, mom cheating on Michael, right? It's that affair, that his mom has. And so, and that was just, we never saw that. It was just brought up in a previously on, and that was kind of slid in there. So, obviously, this is stuff that it just cannot be missed, right? There had to be a reason why this was done, why this happened, and obviously, too, like, just some especially bad writing. Like, yes, there was bad writing in these other episodes, but in, like, episode 8 and 9, even the finale parts of it, this was just terrible writing at some points, where it's like, okay, like, yes, the other episodes were bad, but they weren't this bad. So I think there's definitely, again, a reason for that. And I think they don't deserve all the blame for that, because obviously that delay is out of their control, and I really do think they were rushed with these episodes. And I honestly would rather have seen Showtime delay the final 3 episodes here for a few months, right? If they had to, right? If they had to. I'm just guessing, because I don't know. But I'm assuming that they were kind of rushed with these episodes, and that was at least partly the reason why there were so many problems with them. But I would have been fine if Showtime said, okay, we're going to take like a month or 2 months off here so that these episodes can really be, properly finished, they can be polished, and, come back for that, right? And do a kind of whole marketing campaign, say the final 3 episodes are your honor, right? And this type of deal. That The Walking Dead did that with the finale for the last season. So this really ruined the ending, right? Like, these problems with the episodes made the show, okay, it's cliche, it's melodramatic, but it's still kind of enjoyable at times. But this made it almost just laughable, almost unwatchable, because you're watching a Showtime show, you're expecting quality, and there's multiple editing errors, there's just missing scenes here and there, bad writing. And episode 8, the way that the whole episode was super light, like they screwed up the lighting or something like that, and the effects on that, and the whole episode looked in like a whole different gradient than all the other episodes. So again, obviously some issues here, and I would have been fine if Showtime said, okay, sorry guys, but we got to take a month off for them to finish these episodes, because Otherwise, it's going to be what we got, pretty much, right? It's going to be bad. And I think a lot of fans would have forgiven them for that and said, okay, I'll be back in a month and I'll watch it. And it just seems like Showtime rushed these guys, made them get the episodes out, and this is the final product that we got, which is really unfortunate. So that's what that is. But again, I just want to highlight that because I don't think that's completely fair to blame them for all that stuff, because that's kind of what it was. And again, it's really unfortunate because the ending to the show, who knows what we would have gotten if they didn't have the delay and if all these problems didn't happen. Maybe it could have been a little bit better, right? So it is, again, unfortunate for those guys, for the producers, the writers, the directors, everybody. Really unfortunate. So just want to end off here by discussing the finale episode just briefly. This one was directed by Bryan Cranston, which I'm not sure what to think because parts of this episode were really disappointing, and some of the direction specifically was a little disappointing in this one. But again, obviously it was affected by the delays, and I'm sure that Cranston probably could not have directed this episode to his full ability, because of all the restrictions and the way that they were filming and all this stuff. So again, and also the editing comes down, and I think the editing also really hurts a director's kind of efforts when it's really bad. So yes, Bryan Cranston directed this episode, but I don't think he deserves the full blame. And same with Peter Moffat. I said I'd come back to this. I don't think he deserves the blame for the bad writing here at times, because again, I think these problems with the editing and the production of it overshadow what they had. So if they had something on the script and they had this whole scene play out, well, if the editing is bad and they just completely forget to put that scene in, or maybe it's not touched up enough for the episodes, they can't put it in, that's just not going to be in the final product. And so it's really unfortunate again. And yeah, I'm willing to defend those two guys because all the other stuff, and Bryan Cranston's directed, I believe he directed some Breaking Bad episodes, I believe so, and he was great in that. He's shown that directing ability, and Peter Moffat wrote some of the best episodes here. So again, I'm willing to forgive them. So they had a lot to wrap up with in this finale in only 60 minutes. I've went into this, I'm like, this has got to be an hour and a half episode, or like an hour 20. Like they got to stretch this one to actually work out everything. Nope, no, it's only 58 minutes. It's an hour episode, and they ended up doing very little with that hour. And I do mean very little. There was not much wrapped up here at all, except for Carlo's trial, and that was the main focus of this episode, along with some other weird subplots that got resolved, but not really. So yeah, there's many subplots that were just never explored in the series. One of them, and maybe the most important one, was the black SUV that arguably caused Adam to hit Rocco in the first place and launch this whole story to begin with, and I was just never explored ever. And I'm just wondering why that is, and I don't think that was because of the production delays, because they had 6 other episodes to go into that and explore it, and they just never did. So I'm not sure if they forgot about it, or maybe that was just truly a random SUV and maybe we're looking too far into it. I'm not sure. I'd love to hear the writers talk about that one, because that is a mystery. And then also Adam's mom cheating on Michael, the affair. Where does that come in? That was never resolved, and they just introduced that again in a deleted scene previously on, and that really had no reason to be in this finale episode at all. It's like the first 15 minutes of this one, and it's just completely a waste of time because we don't care that much about it, and it really doesn't serve the story that much or that well. So yeah, really kind of disappointed in that one. And then also Desire's role in all of this, right? Like, yes, we saw a lot of the Desire stuff and that kind of play in, but a lot of that stuff was unresolved too. It's like, what were they, what were their plans in this? And Eugene ends up taking that action out at the end by himself, without Desire. So where is Desire there? What was even the point of spending so much time with Mo and I guess is it his mom or his aunt? Anyways, the woman who kind of runs the gang. What was the point in bringing all of them in and spending so much time with them, and then they really didn't play that big of a part at all in the ending here? And then of course the corrupt cops. That was a whole storyline of Nancy wanting to get the corrupt cops, and we get a little bit of a kind of ending to that with that scene with her and the mayor, or the mayor-elect. Isaiah Whitlock's character at the end, but they didn't really do anything about it. They're just talking about doing something. So, yeah, a lot of subplots here that were just never resolved at the end of this one. Though I will say it was a very suspenseful and intense ending sequence. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, what is going to happen here? Because we see Baxter going up to Adam, and then, okay, they hug it out. Okay, you kind of relax a little bit, and then you see Eugene's got a gun, and so, yeah, I will say, really, really suspenseful, really intense, and a really kind of gut punch at the end of the episode there. Of course, it ends up being an eye for an eye, and Eugene does shoot Adam unintentionally. I think some people think that he shot him purposely. I don't think so. He was obviously aiming for Carlo, and he accidentally hit Adam in the neck and killing him. So, something is interesting here as well is that Eugene's gun was actually paid for by Michael, and then it ends up killing Adam in the end because Michael gave that money to Lee for the baseball, then gave it to Eugene, and Eugene gives that money to buy the gun. So that was an interesting thing there, and actually some interesting writing there. I like that one. That was a nice touch. But overall, it was just a disappointing ending, but I really didn't expect anything else. So I've seen a lot of people that were just like, really disappointed with this one and asking themselves why they just wasted 10 hours of their life watching this show and all this, but I really wasn't that affected by it, to be honest. I knew what it was going to be going in. I knew that it was probably going to be really disappointing, and it was. That's just kind of what it was. I wasn't too disappointed. Some things were wrapped up. Again, really great end sequence to the episode. I like the way it ends with Adam dying. It's that eye for an eye. There is at least some consequence, right? There's some consequence to Adam and Michael. And obviously it's a gut punch, though. It's really sad because you get invested in these characters. But Adam's also one of the dumbest people I've ever seen on TV. And so you almost wanted him not to die, but you wanted something bad to happen to him because he deserved it throughout, his actions in the series, just the whole way through. So, anyways, so a disappointing finale. Didn't expect much more, and pretty much got what I thought we would. So, anyways, to end off, two things I loved about this series. Some great performances. Like I said, Cranston, whole nother level. I think Stahlberg was good in his character. Whitlock Jr. was a standout for sure. You want to throw Carmen Yogo in there for some scenes. She was really great too. Incredible cinematography as my second one here. Just really remarkable and surprising that it was in this type of show, but really, really impressive that we saw this cinematography here from James Friend, and I'm really looking forward to what he does next, for sure. One thing I didn't like, which there's a lot of things, but of course it's probably the cliche melodramatic writing that was caused by this overstretching of the story and the series in general. Way too many episodes. And just a really inflating this story, dragging it out, and really just beating it like a dead horse here until the very end where we get this big moment, and you just kind of look back and you say, wow, they just wasted like 6 hours of TV doing pretty much nothing, just going around in circles of melodrama and arriving at this. So, yeah, that was definitely the worst part of this one for sure. Favorite episode, I'm going to go with episode 2, titled Part 2. Again, I thought this was the best episode. I thought it was actually quite impressive. Some really good shots here, some really great story, some character development in there, and some of the best performances too. I think with Cranston really, really standing out in that one for sure. But anyways, guys, those are my thoughts on Your Honor. The first show of 2021 for me is a little disappointing, to say the least. But overall, it was enjoyable. I wanted to watch it every week, and I'm really glad I did because I really am excited to hear what you guys have to say and discuss this one with you guys. So yeah. So anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this review, and we'll definitely see you hopefully reviewing some other stuff coming up soon. Definitely The Walking Dead, new season I'll be covering. But yeah, we'll see you from there. Anyways, again, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this one, and we'll see you in my next review.